my name is Ryan, and welcome to Multiple Choice Tester Part 28. Okay, I'm kidding. It's actually Part 3. All right, so we're going to go through and wrap up these other two sprites. Okay. Here's a little note for myself. Okay, so what I've done is I put notes in these programs just to kind of remind myself what I've done. I made this like 3 years ago, and I just decided to make a video about it here this week. So you're probably wondering, what took you so long? Well, I'm asking myself that same question every day. So I'm going to move this over to the side. Actually, I'll just delete it. You pause it and read it. It's no big deal. With the Pt.3 sprite, the wrong temp number 3 sprite, it's doing the same exact thing as the other ones. Major difference here is we lowered the pick random from 1 to 3 to 1 to 2 for this one. Because remember, there's only 2 numbers left in the list by the time it gets to this point. Now I'll go ahead and run it just so you can see it. Where's the list? There you are. Okay, so there's 2 values left. That's why we randomly pick a number from 1 to 2. And this one, Pt3, is at the 25 position. So that means it picked number 1. You're probably thinking, wait a minute, I thought it was going to delete it. Okay, it will delete it, but down here I removed that piece of code so that it wouldn't delete it. Let's go ahead and put that back, stop it. I'll let you pause the video and copy those items down. One thing for this sprite, what I have not done, is you go to its costumes, there's nothing in here, okay? There's only 2 sprites. And I had to have 2 sprites so that way this would not cause any issues. It might do something weird. Scratch is really good about just letting you to do whatever you want to do. If you use more advanced programs like Java and C#, it's going to stop you when you make an error. But Scratch loves errors. It loves them so much, it just lets you keep making errors, okay? So you got to watch out for Scratch sometimes. And sometimes the errors are what we call logic errors, where it's going to do something that you don't quite understand, and it's just going to blow your mind away, okay? So once we have that down, oh, you notice right here, let's switch the costume. There you go. Once we get that all taken care of, it's going to broadcast answer 4. Answer 4 will come to the Pt3 sprite. And here, you'll notice the difference with this one when we receive answer 4 compared to Pt3 right here, where we delete an item and then broadcast a message. Here on Pt4, we delete the last item, but we don't broadcast any messages out. Okay, and the reason is because there's nothing really left to do because the game is running. These forever loops are already going. It's looking for the correct answer choice, and then the messenger sprite down here is what's going to perform the actions after this point in time. Now, if you have 5 answer choices or maybe 6, from there you would continue that algorithm that all the other sprites do, where we broadcast a message out. Okay. I believe that's all there is to it for these 2 sprites. Again, right here, the costume numbers. What you would want to do is you'd want to take the costume numbers for these, from let's say the wrong sprite, and then you would want to move them over to Pt3 and Pt4. I can't remember. I think I can hold down Shift, select them all. No, it won't let me do that. Okay, you might have to actually. Let's see. I'm trying to see if it'll let me shift click on these things. Scratch is really cool sometimes, but sometimes it's not going to let me. Okay. I was trying to see if I could select or range them. Instead, what you have to do is you have to manually drag them over to the other sprites. I would do them in order. I just kind of did them out of order. That probably wasn't a good example. So let me go back and undo that, because I don't want to be a horrible influence on you when you program. Is that I would go one by one and drag them over. Okay, or your other choice, this is probably what I would do, is that I would go through the wrong one and I would maybe say duplicate it, and then from there program that as the number 3. Okay, so you have a lot of different choices on what you're going to do on as far as getting the costumes over to these other sprites right here. All right, let's go to the messenger, and the messenger just has 2 costumes, which I didn't mean to show you. It gets the green flag hat it goes to these XY coordinates. Then when it receives a correct answer message, which is what gets broadcast out of the answer 1 sprite in this piece of code right here, whenever it receives the broadcast message correct answer, it's going to clear any graphic effects. We do that just to make sure that any preset values that got stuck on the sprite from the program running before are all gone. We set its size to 0%, so it's really small. Then we tell it to go to these coordinates. Then we switch the costume to correct, and then we tell it to show. Remember, we tell it to hide right here, so it's hidden. You can't see it. And then we play the sound cheer, and then we repeat it 10 times, change its size by 10. Remember, 10 times 10 is 100. That means we're changing it up to 100% of its original size. And we tell it to turn 36 degrees. 36 times 10 is 360 degrees. Okay, so it's going to make a complete circle all the way around. Then we tell it to wait 2 seconds, hide, then broadcast play game. And the play game message comes back to our problem right here. Remember this? And this is when we start the whole program over and over again. Because remember, I told you this block of code runs everything. And it runs everything because we have a loop, kind of. No, it's not really a loop, but the broadcast message sends the control of the program back to the problem sprite. Okay, the incorrect answer block right here, this does the same exact thing as the correct answer, except I do things a little bit different. I make it start large, and then I tell it to decrease its size while spinning 360 degrees. Okay, so this one starts small and gets large. This one starts large and gets small. And again, to broadcast the message play game. All right, unless I forgot something, let's go solve that problem here. Oh, I did forget something. The stage has nothing on it. All right, back to this. Okay, the problem, like I showed you, was that we have multiple costumes in here, okay, that are selecting 1.0 for the correct answer. All right, and that same is true over here with the answer 1. So there's a lot of different ways to solve this. I'm going to come up with one way. You might want to come up with your own way on how to do this. Okay, so let's move this off to the side. So we're going to need some room to pull out our blocks and think about this. We're going to keep repeating this until the costume is not equal to that costume of the problem. And if it's not equal to that, then we make sure that it gets that costume number, then we move down here. But the problem is that this costume number has repeats in it, okay, which comes from over here. All right, and the problem also comes from the fact that in our problem sets, no pun intended, you know, so I keep saying problem, is that 5 divided by 5 is technically 1.0, 2 divided by 2 is 1.0, 3 divided by 3 is 1.0. And again, this is a review game for fractions, so if you're doing something else, this may not apply to you, but it applies to me because I got this fraction game with converting the decimals, and I got a 1.0 repeating, and it's stressing me out. Okay, and 4.4, the same thing is down
all right
here. Okay, so what are we going to do about this? All right, and how in the world did 5 divided by 5 get there? Okay, I don't remember what I did, but it doesn't really matter what order they're in. What matters is that the order of the questions or the problems match up with the order of the answers. Okay, now I'm not going to change anything with this. Okay, I'm happy with the way those work. That works just fine. The problem arises over here because it should detect, we should have it looking for whenever 1.0 is coming up. So let's do something real simple. I paused the video, went through and solved the problem. It wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. Well, not as easy as I would like it to be for a introductory video to programming. However, it does work, and this is, like I said, a good opportunity to show you how to have some flexibility with your code and to go through and solve problems. Not any piece of code you ever write will be perfect. There always will be problems. That's why anytime, you know, you get updates on your phone or updates on the software that you're using, or a video game has updates, it's because the programmers find some sort of error with the code or some sort of bug, something that they missed that they had to go through and fix, okay? And that's just something to expect, and this is no different. Our program worked pretty good
Variables.
with the current set. If you did the fraction-based converting to decimals and trying to find the right multiple choice, there was just that one little error with the 1.0. However, if you did something where you didn't have the answers or repeating themselves, such as what you have over here with the answer 1, okay, then you wouldn't really have much of a problem. However, if you follow along with this one, there could be an instance where you have multiple answers that are exactly the same. To get around that, I developed a alternate answer block right here. Compared to the original, it's a little bit bigger. Actually, I'd say it's a lot bigger. Seems kind of intimidating, but it's really not, and I'll walk you through it. Now, this is the old one. If you're happy with the way everything ran, you're like, hey, you know what? I have no issues with that, then just keep this and maybe just kind of watch the video and see what we do from here. Okay, so it receives the answer to message, and then right here, what we're going to do is we're going to say if the costume number of the problem, and we're using this sensing variable detector block right here, the blue one, okay, if it's equal to 5, or costume number 5, 7, 10, or 14, if you come back over here to the problem costumes, all right, 5, 7, what was it, 10 and 14, okay, those are all the ones where it comes out to 1.0. Back over, where was I wrong? No, I'm not wrong, but I'm right that it is the wrong. And okay, so if it's one of those costumes, we're going to have this new variable we programmed or we created called mismatch. And we're going to set mismatch to true. That means it potentially could be a mismatch. All right, so if it's one of these problem costumes, that means it's going to be 1.0. We set mismatch to true, and we come down here to this repeat until. Before we move further, if it's not one of these costumes, we set mismatch to false. Okay, if it's false, then that's going to make things really easy for us. But let's go ahead and pretend that it's true. If mismatch is true, we're going to come down here to this repeat until block. It's very similar to this one, except this one is highly energized with different details. What we're going to say, if we're going to keep repeating until the costume number is not the costume number of problem and mismatch is not true. Okay, so if mismatch is not true, right there I say the word not, and the costume number is not equal to the costume number of the problem, okay, we're going to keep repeating this code until those two conditions are true. So this has to be true and this has to be true. Until then, we're going to keep switching the costume from 1 to 14. And we're going to say right here, if mismatch is true, which you got set true right here, and the costume number is 5, 7, 10, or 14, it's important to look how I got this organized in here. Okay, and I'll break this apart so you can see it in a second. Okay, so if this is true, which got set true from here, and is able to pass into this repeat until because this was true. Okay, if this is true and it's one of these costumes, 5, 7, 10, or 14, which is the costume number for this particular sprite that we're working on, which is the wrong one, which are the costumes that match up with the answer. If it's set to that, we're going to say mismatch is true in this first else condition, and we're just going to keep repeating. Now watch what happens. If we were doing this, these first two conditions are true, we switch to a random costume, it is not 5, 7, 10, or 14. Okay, if those are not true, then we're going to move to the else section here. And we're going to go ahead and declare mismatch to be false. If mismatch is false, that means the repeat until conditions are no longer true because this is now not, well, excuse me. So this is not true, okay, which means we can break out of this loop now. And we'll come down here and we're going to perform the same pieces of code that we have done previously over here. Okay, so the only major difference is we added these two if-else conditions that check the costume number and make sure that the costume number is not going to be equal to that, or it's not one that has the same correct answer. Now, let me show you something real quick. I'm going to duplicate this because I want to break my original one. Let me get this out of the way over here. Okay, so how did I put this one together? I'm going to break it apart. Okay, I took these equals symbols. I'm going to go ahead and organize this so you can see how I put all this together. Because if you don't put this together in the right sequence, you could get issues with your code. Okay, so I'm going to put this together again. I'll go ahead and break this one apart. So the first thing I did was I took my mismatch equals true, and I put that in the left-hand Boolean section for the AND block here. And then I took my number 5 and put in the far left Boolean hexagon shape for the OR block. Then I took this OR block and put it right there. I'm going to go ahead and take this other OR block and put it right there. Now I could have technically just put the OR blocks together and then done it one by one. It's really up to you. What's important though is that they nest inside each other in some sort of sequence. You want to avoid a scenario where you're getting them all kind of mixed up and putting them in different orders. Okay, that could cause some sort of issues with your code. So try to get a coherent sequence of how you put these together. And I'm going to go ahead and put in my Boolean blocks right there. Oh, when it kicks one out, don't worry about that. Just go ahead and figure out a way to get it together and put it together. And then we'll take this whole OR block. Notice I clicked on the bottom one. Okay, you can tell by the layering which one's on the bottom. This one's on the bottom, so I'm going to drag it and put it right there. Clicks together just nice. And then I'd come up here to my if condition and drop it in. Okie dokie. So that is how you get around the problem. There's other ways we could have done it. This is just one of many ways. That's one thing you need to learn about programming, is that programming isn't so much mastering a language, it's mastering the art of problem solving. And I'm sure there's other errors here in the code. I'm not really worried about that. What I'm mainly worried about is that we have the ability to go through and solve any problems that we get. All right, well, thanks for watching. If you see any other issues, there actually is one more error in this code. And I'm gonna let you figure that one out, okay? And let me go ahead and show you and identify the problem here. Whoa, what in the world? Oh, it's because we got 2 of these right here. So let's go ahead and, there we go, we got that problem solved. I'm gonna go ahead and choose undelete, put it right there. If you ever have a duplicate piece of code, you wanna keep it around and not delete it just because you want it around, just drag it off so it's not underneath a hat block, so that way it won't execute when the program runs. So when I run the code, this block of code does not activate. Now, it is true, this does receive a message, but since nothing is connected to it, it won't do any sort of action. So you don't have to worry about that. Now, the other error, let's go ahead and find that one. Okay, our problem, I can't remember if this was actually an error. I'm going to presume there's an error. I'm just going to check out, let's look at my answers. I don't think we have any more duplicate answers. I had a feeling like 0.8 or 0.5 was duplicated. Okay, there's 0.5, which would come from 2 divided by 4, and then I guess this one's 1 divided by 2. I don't see any other ones out there, okay? But this is good for you because this gives you a chance to go through and, much like what I had done right here, figure out a way to stop that error whenever the answer is going to be a 0.5, so that way you don't have a wrong answer block over here where you have more than one 0.5 showing up on the screen. Because if you see right here, costume 12, right down there, and costume number 6 could potentially cause an issue. All right, so go through and see if you can figure that out. I don't think there are any other ones. My eyes are kind of glazing over from looking at Scratch all day. Well, not Scratch all day, but actually I've been looking at Java all day. Anyhow, so go through, check that out, see if you can figure out the solution to that problem. It's very similar to this one. Okay, so use your creativity and see if you can solve that problem. All right, well, my name is Ryan. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you in the next video.